All right, definers, welcome to Sustainability Defined, where Jay and I define sustainability one concept and one bad joke at a time. Today's episode, a little different. Something we've never done in our, 8 years, Jay, that we've been doing this?
Yes, almost a decade.
Almost a decade. And it's different because Jay and I are announcing that we are no longer going to host this podcast. It's just kind of weird to say. But basically, we're going to run it through the end of the year. And we first want to tell you why, and then we want to talk to you about what happens to the show after that point. So, Jay, maybe I'll go first talking about the why, and then I'll turn it over to you. So,
go for it.
At least my why is that things have just gotten crazy busy at work. I'm getting married. I just want to have a bit more time to focus on some personal life things, but also as other professional things come into play, like I just became the chair of the recycling partnership. There's just other things I want to try and learn how to do. And honestly, not doing the podcast frees up that time. But also what is really appealing to me is I think back to, Jay, when you and I started the show. And I wasn't in the sustainability field. I was an environmental attorney for fish lawyer, oceans, which is great. Loved it. But I needed a way to transition to what I really wanted to do was to work in the sustainability field. And starting this podcast, I was basically able to anoint myself as an expert in sustainability just because there was so little barrier to entry to podcasts then and now, I guess. But if we hand it off to somebody, which I guess I'm blowing the lead there, somebody could have a similar opportunity to learn about new sustainability issues, to enhance their credentials in the field, and maybe get a job. I think it helped me get my job for sure. So, Jay, those are my whys. What about you?
Well, yeah, and Scott, going on that thread, I mean, it's really cool to think back, again, almost 10 years to where we were. We were in DC, we're, mid-20s, hustling. I, too, was not in sustainability. This had been an interest of mine forever. And podcasts had just come out, and, you and I happened to, our stars aligned, our paths crossed, and here we are. And I think it is just incredible to look back, I think, at the value it has provided, both professionally and personally. I mean, frankly, I wouldn't have met Anna if it weren't for the podcast.
Yeah.
I believe, Scott, you gave Shannon your podcast business card when you guys first met.
Yeah, Jay, quick funny story there, because this podcast will come out after the wedding. What we're doing is the people's names on the plates, like where they're sitting, it's in the form of a business card as like to nod to that. So it says like so-and-so, friend, hello at Scott and Shannon Company, like established 2024. Like it's a business card because of that. So
amazing.
Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's given us so much. It's obviously involved a lot of investment from our parts and from all the folks that have been helping us out over the years. But yes, I mean, I know, Scott, when we first had this conversation, and my personal life is going in a similar direction to yours as far as just new responsibilities. Yeah. Mine, however, is in the form of a living, breathing, screaming, pooping child that is now about 3 weeks away from his due date. But it was so invigorating, I think, and I credit you for this idea to think, well, this podcast doesn't have to end. I think we think, and we hope this is correct, definers, that we're continuing to provide value as we break down complex topics, hopefully in an engaging way. And yes, if there is a way for other folks to extract some of the same benefits, we're not going to guarantee you're going to meet your forever partner here, but maybe. I think that's it's just a really exciting opportunity, and I'm excited to detail it here just a little bit more.
Right. And I think part of why I was so interested in starting the podcast is as we collectively thought about like the framework for each episode, where we introduce it and, we have some jokes, but it's just chock full of insights. And then we interview an expert in the field. I'm like, that's something I would want to listen to. So I also selfishly wanted to continue. So I have good content to listen to, and you have good content to listen to as you change diapers.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, I'm a little intimidated, Scott, but Anyways.
Have you like practiced?
I have practiced a few times. I've been to a few, by a few, I mean probably like 6, birthing and new dad classes. So
really?
At this point, if I don't know anything, it's my fault. But I'm hoping that, I mean, I know that Anna will be able to do just fine. I just hope to keep up. Anyway, so definers. Again, the question is what's going to happen to Sustainability Defined now that Scott and I aren't hosting it?
Right.
Well, hopefully, and again, we're open here, but hopefully it keeps on going with a similar format, but with new hosts that have new perspective and energy to bring to it. Again, thinking back to where we were in our mid-20s, earlier in our careers. Mm-hmm. I think ideally that could be 1 or 2, maybe 3 of our definers take it over and it just keeps going. And again, I just think that maybe we're tooting our own horns here, Scott, but this method of picking what would otherwise be complex topics and breaking them down in a way that the average listener can understand and relate to, I think is just so critical for sustainability.
And I think the other thing to point out here too is that, Jay, you and I have an LLC. Like, this is a business. So you would be taking over a business. It's a little bit of a side hustle of sorts. It's best not to think about how much you earn per hour.
Right.
But it's not like you have to put in your own money per se, like with sponsorships and such. It more than pays for itself. So for those that are interested in, again, enhancing your resume and just love sustainability and you're going to have fun doing this. We had fun. Like, it should be fun for whoever takes it over. But also it is a business and you can make money and pay other people, and it has that benefit as well.
So again, definers, we're leaving basically any option on the table as far as how we want to hand this off. So definers, if you are interested, reach out to us. You know the email, hosts@sustainabilitydefined.com, HOSTS@sustainabilitydefined.com, and convince us that you're the right person or group of people to take the show to its next level. From there, we're happy to work out the details, but I think we're, first and foremost, Scott, just interested to see if there's demand out there for folks to carry the baton.
Yeah, and it honestly does not need to be a super long email to convince us. We honestly don't want to read a super long thing, but just something that explains why you think you can add value to the listenership, why this podcast will add value to your life, and why we can trust you.
And I would dare say, feel free to exercise your creativity here, definers. After all, I think, frankly, Scott, one of the things we'll be looking for if folks are interested is the rapport, the dynamic, the ability to be engaging from behind a mic. So I would encourage folks, if you do want to toss your name in the ring, show us. Show off a little bit.
Yeah, it doesn't even need to be an email. I mean, it could be like when you apply to The Amazing Race and it's like a 3-minute video.
Right.
Sure.
Right. I love it.
So, Jay, is there a deadline we want to put on this? I mean, I guess it's rolling of sorts, but we do want to hand this off by the beginning of next year, so the sooner the better.
Yeah, I think so. And Scott, that's probably a good segue into what the rest of the year is going to look like for us.
Yeah.
Folks, remember Atypical episode 6 from back in February featuring the Uproot Project? Well, we are excited to put into our feed audio segments produced or hosted by Uproot Project members this coming October and November before we host our very last episode, our December holiday hodgepodge.
Right. So reminder here, Uproot Project, it's a network for and by environmental journalists of color. The organization is working to address the need for more journalists of color in newsroom covering environmental topics, super important. And you may remember from that Atypical episode number 6, we not only explained what Uproot Project is, interviewed their leader, but also said if anyone listening donates, we'll match it up to the first $500. So if you still want to do that, we'd love it. Just go to their website, just Google Uproot Project, you'll see it, donate, and then email us the receipt. Same email, HOSTS, hosts@sustainabilitydefined.com, and then we'll go ahead and send them the same amount of money.
Our first episode from them, so that's going to be coming up in October, will be from the podcast Sea Change, and will feature a story about trying to maintain beach access in New Orleans. And Scott, I know you in particular got really excited setting up this episode given your connection to New Orleans.
Indeed. I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to checking out more from Sea Change. It was really good.
And to that point, Scott, there's an interesting history there, in New Orleans about segregated beaches in the city, and there's a need to bring back the beaches as it gets even hotter there due to climate change. So I am super pumped about this very first episode that we'll be hosting on our feed.
Right. Well, Jay, this is a sad episode to put together, but I'm also super happy because I have a really good friend for life. And this show should hopefully go to someone else, and it's just going to be the gift that keeps on giving. And I'm excited to keep learning from it as a listener.
I love it, Scott. Maybe, we'll cook up some real sappy stuff for our hodgepodge coming up in December. But in the meantime, it has been just an absolute pleasure doing this with you. Couldn't have done it with anybody else. And again, just excited to hopefully hand it off to see it progress, grow even further.
Well, rest assured, more sappy stuff coming. I'll have a tissue box for December. Well, all right. I think that about does it. You all stay sustainable out there. I'm Scott Breen.
And I'm Jay Siegel. We'll see you next time.